Hey everyone, this is for our Joy Shelf Sitter. It's just going to be a quick assembly video. We are going to be using a Gorilla Glue super glue to be putting our pieces together. When you're assembling your bases, just make sure that the slots are lining up correctly. They are slightly off-centered, so you want to just make sure that they're both going the same direction before you start gluing. You can use hot glue, wood glue, or super glue, whichever is easiest for you. Once you have all glue on all of your pieces, you're just going to make sure you hold it tight, just to make sure all that glue is sticking and nothing is popping off. For these pieces, I ended up holding it for almost about a minute just to make sure my base is nice and sturdy, and I don't want anything popping off when I'm done holding onto it. Once you're done with your base, you can set it off to the side, and we're going to go ahead and start assembling our Joy snowman. First thing I did is I did the snowman face in the center. So you're just going to add a little piece, a couple dots of glue around the outside edge. I am working with a particularly stubborn glue bottle that is about empty and just needs to be thrown away. So I'm just going to do a quick cut from this video to go pick up a new one and then come back with a fresh bottle. So I'm just going to add a couple glue dots around the outside edge and a couple in the center, and then just make sure that your snowman face is going to be centered and facing the way you want it to. You can have it kind of cockeyed if you want them to be kind of looking up, or you can have them straight on, whichever is your preference. I decided to do mine straight on. Once I'm done with the snowman, I am going to move on to my letters. Just a couple spots of glue, and I'm going to place the outline piece of the Y. And you're just going to make sure that it's centered so that there ideally is going to be the same amount of space all around the white that's going to be shown with the red. And once the Y is attached, we're going to do the same thing with the J, making sure as much of the red is being shown around the outside edge as we can. Next is going to be his little nose. The nose can kind of get placed where you want it. I decided to put mine kind of in between the dots for his smile. And then once that's set, then we're going to be adding on our snowflakes. Snowflakes can also get placed wherever you'd like them to be, just making sure you're adding glue to the parts that are actually going to connect with the other parts. That way it sticks. Once you have all of your pieces put together, I went ahead and added glue to the front of the bottom little tab here, and that's going to slide into your base. Your base is going to be slightly oversized, so you're going to have a little bit of wiggle room when you place it in. So I just kind of set it in and then made sure it was centered on the base. And you want to make sure that it's standing straight up and down. So you might need to hold it for a few seconds while the glue takes hold. While your glue is setting for the shelf sitter itself, we're going to go ahead and take our ribbon and we're going to tie a bow with it. So what I do is I make 2 loops with my fingers, kind of find the middle, make 2 loops, and I'm going to kind of make bunny ears, cross it over, loop it through, almost like tying your shoes. And then the trick is to take that and put it towards the front and then pull tight. And once you pull it tight, then you can kind of play with it a little bit, open up those loops. This is a wired ribbon, so it's going to hold its shape a little bit better. And kind of play around with the sizing of the loops, make them as big or as small as you want them to be, make them even. And then once you get it looking the way you want it to, you can trim the ends a little bit. Then from here, I kind of just placed it, make sure it was as big as I wanted it to be. If you don't happen to have any greenery for your project, you can always just add the bow there, almost like a bow tie. Just kind of play around with it until you're happy with it. Next, I'm going to work on placing my greenery. So with these particular sprigs of greenery, I wanted it to be as flat as I possibly could on one side. That way it would lay a little bit flatter on the base itself. So it's just a matter of playing around with the branches and having it make the look I want it to have. I didn't want it to look too full and cover up too much of the joy itself. So I'm just going to keep playing around with both of them. I end up putting the ends, I slide them into each other to kind of hide them. If you don't want to do that, and if you have some wire cutters, you can always just trim those ends off. Here I'm just kind of hiding that end, making it look like one singular piece. And just playing around with the wiring of the branches themselves to get the look that I'm looking for. Once you have the look that you're going for this, you can either use super glue or hot glue. I didn't happen to have any hot glue, so I tried it out with the super glue and it actually worked perfectly fine. So I'm just adding some super glue to the branch part, and I'm going to just attach it to the base. Just making sure I add lots of super glue because I wasn't quite sure where it was going to touch. The nice thing with this though is it sets fairly quickly. So I'm just going to make sure I'm placing it the way I want it to. I'm just going to hold it down for a few seconds. If you have hot glue, that works perfectly fine too. I just didn't happen to have any on hand. Then here, there is a pine cone kind of in the way of where I wanted to add my bow. It was making it so my bow wasn't laying flat. So I just took some scissors, cut it off. I'm going to add a little bit of super glue, and I'm going to glue it back onto the branch further down so it's not in the way of my bow anymore. Once I'm happy where the branches are, I'm just going to add a little bit of super glue or hot glue if that's what you're using to the back of my bow. And I'm going to just place it onto the branches right where I want it to be. You can either put it off to the side, into the middle, skip the bow altogether, whatever your personal preference is. Once my bow is placed, I am actually going to light my lights, and I just kind of tuck the box right behind the O so you can't see it. And then that way with the lights lit, I can kind of see where they're going to fall a little bit better. And I'm just going to wrap it around the branches a little bit. This particular strand of lights is a 3.5-foot strand of fairy lights. It's battery operated with an on-off switch. And I'm just kind of wrapping it around the branches, lighting them up as I go and kind of shoving the wire down in. The wire is very thin, so you actually don't really see much of it, which makes it nice, and it kind of blends in. My branches have a little bit of a glitter sheen to them, so the wiring, the silver wire, just kind of blends in with it. But just wrapping the wires around, and then once they're done, that's your finished project. I'm just setting the box there. I didn't want to attach it to anything in case I ever need to replace the batteries. I can still access it. But it's a simple on-off switch just to turn them on and off. And that's your finished project. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I can't wait to see you again. More projects are available on our website at thewanderinggooseofholland.com. Thanks.